All right, Dan, main event. Andrade beating Swerve Strickland after a mule kick. And AEW established kind of bookend of the show with the lay of the land of the men's heavyweight division. I like when they, I mentioned this over the last couple of years, let viewers know who you're in the business of pushing. Like they're in the Kenny Omega business. They're in the MJF business. They're in the Swerve Strickland business. They're in the Hangman Page business. We knew that. And tonight we learned they are also for sure in the Andrade El Idolo business. Yep. And we'll see what they can get out of him. I say that I always feel like there's like this bigger deal made out of Andrade than it ends up turning out being worth. We can assess blame, distribute it on a pie chart, but that seems to be the case. What did you think? Let's start with Andrade, how he's coming across in AEW so far, and especially obviously tonight.
Yeah, I mean, he carries himself like a star. He has confidence as much as I've ever seen in him, although, when he left the first time, he went out on a pretty high note. I mean, he was good in that Continental Classic. I know some people thought they gave him too much, but he was a compelling part of the TV on his way out. And yeah, this is not a guy that lacks confidence or can't carry himself like a star or is like, poor me or whatever. And, I really hadn't thought things through. I'm not surprised they had him beat Swerve because Swerve is, is unselfish and he's kind of willing to do the right things for business. And this clearly, it didn't make Swerve diminished really. I mean, it was a pretty dirty win. And it adds to, there's the whole story with him and Kenny from when the few minutes he showed up for and attacked him the first time. So I think again, what you alluded to is they are focused right now on their top guys and the importance of the world title. And by doing that, it makes everything in the company seem more important. Yep. And makes this seem like it's the show you want to be watching because it has all these superstars that are fighting for the world title. We make these old references and I know you get them, but I was thinking back to World Class. And when Ric Flair would come in, it wasn't always against the Von Erichs. Terry Gordy might get a shot, or Chris Adams, or Gino Hernandez, or whoever. Yep. And it was like everybody's in the game of being the world champion. And when you're good enough to be in that discussion, that alone elevates you. And then you become the world champion, you're even higher. I mean, Samoa Joe's still in that pantheon if he gets healthy. It's a deep title scene right now, and there is a separation between that and all those other belts, which I say bravo, there should be, because you're in exactly what you said. You're in the Kenny Omega business. You're clearly in the Hangman business. It's not like they dropped out of the Swerve business tonight. I mean, stars are going to lose sometimes.
Mule kick too.
And it was dirty, like I said. Yeah. And so, that I love that. I love that part of the show right now. It makes me want to get the pay-per-views and see how this all plays out. And MJF sitting at the top of the heap, but it was a little bit tried at the end where he went from contender to contender, scared, but it's still good stuff, right? And he's got Brody breathing down his neck too. So
yes, that's the thing. I'm glad you brought up Brody because it's like they got to get through that first. And I mean, they're telling two MJF stories at once. The immediate challenger, who I think people are into. Yeah. I think because of all this other stuff going on, they're not going to believe Brody can win. That's up to AEW if they want to try hard to change that perception.
Well, I think he could win next week. Potentially.
Yes, but the world title, everything's...
I agree with that. Yeah.
And by the way, that's not necessary. It's just helpful if you can, but, you don't want to obsess over it. I mean, it's fine if you tell the story of somebody whose fans are behind and fans don't think he'll score an upset, but you still want to see maybe he will.
Nobody thought Bandito was going to win the world title either, but it was good TV, and I don't think it hurt Bandito. Now, Brody's maybe a slight notch ahead of Bandito right now, just the way he's carried himself and the way he's conducted himself in interviews and stuff. But still, I mean, again, there's no if there's shame in losing to the world champion, then you need to go do something else. And to have a lot of stars that are good enough to even get the shot, again, makes your roster seem like it's what people should want to watch. And I love that. I don't mean to jump around too much, but I love the Ciampa introduction tonight. And it's just like, this is a good show. Like there was a lot to like in this show.
Yeah. You mentioned, I'll get out of the way, the convenience at the end after the match where they interview MJF backstage. I shouldn't say just once, multiple times. I'd like to see them interview somebody after a match, and it's just a straight up interview. You know, like when you see it, you're like, okay, there's going to be an angle. Just I like the format of there's a match. It affects somebody else, and they interview that person, and they can still cut back to the ring to the person celebrating in the ring after the backstage interview. You don't have to end cold with the backstage interview, but kind of if that's a format that you're going to use it a few times when it doesn't turn into a big angle, so it doesn't feel so contrived and predictable. So small thing there, just a straighten your tie type moment, with wrestling. It's not that big of a deal, but if you want to kind of hit the next level of cleaning up the product presentation, try to make things a little less tropey and predictable. Speaking of which, the cameras always focus on who stands still, not who walks away. And in this case, they focused on who walked away. And wow, who could have imagined?
I do think Renee was kind of chasing him, so that made it I think she was, which
really
makes it
okay. I didn't notice better. That's.
I thought they kind of showed where she was trying to keep up. I could be wrong. I obviously ran straight upstairs and set up the computer, but
yeah. I'll take some pretense where MJ. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. It's a small thing, but again, it's. I think if you clean up a couple dozen of these things over the course of a month, you just have a cleaner, crisper, more effective product, and you just can feel a little better at the end of the show. Hey, we did some of the detail work too.
And see, the Kenny thing I thought was fine because he was presenting himself as, hey, I know I'm interrupting, but yes. I am, I've got my shot here. I know that Renee is going to interview Max. I mean, that's something that could, we see it in UFC. That could happen any number of places. But then it went to the next level and the next level. And it was, I'm with you. It was a little much. But, again, they're trying to keep letting you know that, hey, we have a deep pool of top guys here. And let's have you see them all, I guess.
Yeah. And again, I mean, I'm fine with Kenny interrupting MJF. I have no problem with that. I just wish 3 times in the last 3 months we saw a backstage interview that didn't lead to an angle. And I also don't have a problem with a camera following a wrestler if the wrestler says, if MJF says, I feel threatened, I feel accosted, security, follow me out to my car. You could have just, there's just like, I think easy solutions to explain why the camera is following the wrestler leaving the room instead of what they always do otherwise. That's it.
And I mean, if you weren't expecting Hangman to show up after Kenny and Andrade, then I don't know what you were thinking because it was just like a little too obvious. And whatever they're in the Hangman business. I get it, but it was like I said, it was probably a step too far.
Yeah, and small stuff, but whatever. It's worth mentioning and moving on from. I do think Andrade looks like he's carrying himself like a star right now. One of the things that helps him in that regard is not asking him to do a lot of mic work or talking. You can do vignettes with him that are pre-recorded, and that's fine. He had, was able to convey just enough with that voice that sounds, kind of intimidating and ominous that he's going for the belt. And I thought they used him well in that way. Obviously, his strength is in-ring work, but that's not the be-all, end-all to getting over. It's connecting with the fans in a way where they have an emotional investment in seeing you win or lose, not just have a 3.5 to 4.5 star match every time they see you or whatever. Or you were an ex-WWE guy and now you're an AEW, so yay. Tell a story with him. And that's good. I still want to be shown that there's more there than he's third or fourth heel on the depth chart who's throwing in there because he'll give you a good match. And I don't think they've gotten there yet, but that's fine. I mean, I think I saw a chat here. Derek Mitchell says Andrade has the mentality of a number 1 receiver, but he's really number 2 or 3, not as good as he thinks he is. Now, I don't know if Derek, if you're saying storyline or real life or perhaps both, but there might be, something to that. But I'm not. The thing is if he's on your roster, I mean, he isn't defined down enough, I would argue, and he's good enough in the ring and has a good look. Try to get the most you can out of him. It doesn't mean he has to be he doesn't have to be for the next year what Swerve and Ospreay and Hangman are, but get what you can out of him as a main eventer for a while, and then you split him off and move him on to something else. But he carries himself well, and obviously, AEW has no shortage of wrestlers who can have good matches. I just don't think that's the determining factor if you're a main event ratings draw or meant to be featured on pay-per-view. But I want to see more. I don't think it's a finished product, but I'm digging it. But just don't treat him, and I don't think AEW is. This is my issue with him is, oh my God, Andrade's here.
Right.
Now we're done. We got a big star. It's like you didn't get Roman Reigns. Like he's got to earn it week after week after week in the ring and character development.
Yeah, and one theme I kind of felt watching this show is that there's a lot of wrestlers in AEW that are kind of portraying themselves at the top end of what they can be. Davis and Doyle come to mind. You know, I wasn't sure I saw it when they first were putting him together and making him a big deal, but they're very confident right now, and they're presenting themselves really well. Tekla, is kind of, I think, at the top of her presentation, you know, given every ceteris paribus, you know, going into where she was 3 months ago. So it's just, they seem to be hitting really nicely on presentation of their characters. And, you know, that's to their advantage, obviously.
Yeah. All right. I want to talk more about the world title scene and where we're headed and what we saw tonight, but let's pause and just quickly introduce the show. This is the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show for Wednesday, January 28th, 2026. I'm Wade Keller, host of the show, editor, publisher, and founder of the Pro Wrestling Torch Weekly newsletter. Here's hot off the presses, today's latest copy with my cover story exclusive to the newsletter, previewing the Royal Rumble, looking at the pros and cons of various possible winners and some dark horses. I've also got on the back page my endnotes column reviewing the WWE Unreal first couple episodes, and Greg Parks has a column on page 10, another newsletter exclusive destination reading. I'm having trouble opening his page. He's always on page 10 with his story on TNA in their first week on AMC and what there is to build on and where they screwed up, and more in that issue. So you can get paper copy edition or the PDF and all text copy with a PWTorch VIP membership. pwtorch.com/govip for full details on all the benefits that come with VIP membership. Just before Dynamite, I put up my latest Wade Keller news bulletin that is online exclusive. It's a PDF. It's an so if you want to read it on your laptop, your desktop, it's got the landscape view, a layout with the top story. The middle column is news and notes, and then the right column is endnotes. And I also read it if you just prefer the podcast format. And there's an all text version if you want to read it on your phone. So 3 versions of ways to consume it, but that is a new regular feature for the last few months with PWTorch VIP membership. A lot of other cool stuff on the podcast side of things, compatible with Apple Podcasts and pretty much any other podcast app you want to use. But if you sign up, there's a link in the confirmation email. You click it, it opens up the native Apple Podcast app on your phone, and you're signed in. No advanced settings, no fumbling around with passwords or anything like that. It's a really slick setup. You can also sign up through Patreon or Spotify or using your Apple account. We got full details on all that. pwtorch.com/govip, and that includes an advertisement-free version of our website and exclusive columns and other features on the website, and then with a full VIP membership also unlocking nearly 4 decades of archives. I mean, you can go back to the late 1980s and what I was writing about was going on in the first SummerSlam ever. Our content goes back that far. Hundreds of retro radio shows from the 90s, including my run on KFAN, and then over 2 decades of podcasts on demand. A lot of cool stuff. Check it out. pwtorch.com/govip. We're here to talk Dynamite tonight, and we have Dan Kuester with me, who says Econ is everywhere in his under his name on the screen. He's a PWTorch contributor helping to cover New Japan primarily. Dan, good to have you back in the coolest chair here after a Dynamite.
Yeah, I really appreciate the invite, and always like talking AEW, New Japan, different wrestling, occasionally the historical stuff as well, and it's always fun to interact with the callers and listeners. So look forward to it. And like I said, there's a fair amount. It was a straightforward show. It wasn't like a real tricky show or anything, but it was good. So that always makes this job more pleasant.
Absolutely. So you mentioned callers. You're welcome to be a caller on the show. If you're watching us live on the PWTorch YouTube channel, you can always find a link to our live streams right after Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown, by the way, on our website, PWTorch VIP for VIP members. In my TV report covering Raw, Dynamite, or SmackDown, at the top and bottom of the report is a link. You click on it, you get in the waiting room, and you can be a caller on the show. If you're camera shy, don't worry about it. Turn off your camera. Just be an audio caller. Jason from Australia does that. Others have. You can also just join us on the screen, too. And you can also, of course, listen to our shows on demand on our podcast feed. If you're not VIP, that's fine. Thank you for listening to us anyway. We got free feeds out there. Search Wade Keller on your podcast app. Subscribe to the red and blue logo shows, and then search PWTorch to get the PWTorch Daily Cast. Don't miss out on any of our free podcasts. There's a lot of good stuff on a daily basis on all 3 feeds. check it out. As the show continues here, we'll continue to interact with our live chat that joins us on our live stream on YouTube. Good community there. A lot of regulars. We're seeing some new faces too. So we'll be putting their comments on the screen as we go. We'll read them aloud for the vast majority of you who are on the podcast audio-only side of things. And that's fun interaction, helps keep us honest and adds counter perspectives. And our favorite ones are when they just say nice things about what we just said, although we tend to ignore those because that's boring. And you can also email us, wadekellerpostshow@gmail.com. If you just want to use email and be part of the show. You don't have to watch us live on YouTube then to be part of the show. All right, let's get rolling here. Overall, you like people are commenting on this show in a positive way, and you have too, Dan, and I agree. Adam Kidd said, decent show tonight. Format-wise, this, I don't know that I would put it, I'd call it the perfect Dynamite like I did a month or so ago, and I just thought like everything just kind of clicked in terms of the video features, the format, the pacing, the match quality, featuring stars. But this is in that realm of what I think is a winning formula for Dynamite. You don't always have to open cold with a match. Like, that's not my favorite thing. But it was pretty short, and then they went to a talking segment. I mean, there's little things I do different, as I've said, little nitpicks about, kind of the logic of how the product's presented. But I did think on balance, this was a show that had good wrestling. You knew who they're in the business of pushing. Title matches that felt like they mattered as much as is possible with the effects of inflation on the value of title belts. You can explain that, Dan. But yeah, this was an enjoyable little over 2-hour pro wrestling experience. And we'll talk about Ciampa in a moment and putting his match on Collision, but I wonder if it's, in Tony's mind, he doesn't want Collision to be the lowest watched primetime show every week. So he's going to kick up Collision a little bit with TNA Impact knocking on the door of 200,000 viewers 2 weeks in a row in the 170s. GWF ESPN on the chat said, I thought the show was a ton of fun. Bachelor Andrade is the best version of him that he's showing America, I think. I don't know if I want to get into that.
Well, it's completely believable. Well, I'll just say that for better or worse. That was again, I found that entertaining, the little interaction there as they went to commercial.
Yeah. Yep. Grant of Real Squared Circle says, coming from someone who hasn't watched the biggest AEW, who hasn't been the biggest AEW fan in the last few years, I thought the women's title match, Andrade Swerve, and Ciampa's debut were all great. One Man's Voice says they needed an in-depth and exciting show tonight. The formula was so well done from matches, angles, and storyline development. So again, just a parade of positive comments on this show. I know there's another one here. Yeah, Kyle Fassel said, I haven't watched AEW in a while. Haven't been that interested in the product as of late. Skim through the show. That main event was awesome. Those guys told a story in the ring. So let's use that to talk a little bit more about what Swerve and Andrade did in the ring to tell a story. Was there anything that stood out particularly good, or anything that stood out that you would edit out or tweak, Dan?
Not really. It was pretty tight. Andrade kicked out of some of Swerve's bigger moves. And again, if you're in they're doing a pretty nice job of promoting this Vegas show next week, certainly. And, there's with Brody and MJF, and then of course, Kenny and Andrade. Those are certainly two bookends that will probably draw a pretty decent audience. And so I think also that makes more sense to focus on Ciampa on the other show as well, and Briscoe. So yeah, I thought it was a good match. It was and Andrade, was able to overcome some things. So it's not like he's just this cheater that can't compete. But then in the end, as you mentioned, the mule kick, the cheating, it certainly didn't hurt Swerve too much. And again, that story's there with he and Kenny and the Callis family, where that's probably, I don't know if you want to give Kenny and Swerve away on free TV anyway. So I think that it all kind of makes sense.
Comment on the match from Kyle Fassel. I think the ring spots told the story of, you can't do this. Well, I can. If you can do this, I can do it too. They had a few spots like that, and I loved it. Yeah, it felt like two alpha male competitors in their physical, athletic prime trying to outdo each other. It was paced well. It felt intense. It felt like they were trying to win a fight, not put on a performance, but they still ended up with a good match. For sure. And do you think Swerve is going heel? Adam Kidd asks, is Swerve going to the dark side? There's a lot of baby faces on top. I don't know. I mean, you could watch what they did with Kyle Fletcher tonight and say, are they turning him already? Because a little bit of heat. I don't know. I think they're telling an intra Don Callis family story. I'm not assuming they're turning, but maybe. I mean, so throw that out there. But there's a lot of there's a lot of talent, both heel and face side of things, especially if Samoa Joe can be healthy soon. But what do you think about that? Are you reading into Swerve at all?
It's certainly possible. I don't think I would right now myself. I think there's still, depending on what happens with the world title, there's still some stories to be told with he and Hangman that would kind of be thrown away if Swerve turns heel right now. And so from that perspective, I probably wouldn't favor it, but it's certainly not impossible. When you have, you don't have that many baby faces lose these kind of matches in AEW that are really top. So you wonder if something's coming. But again, I just think it's that Swerve is comfortable in his skin, and he's kind of always been willing to do what's right. Go back to the Danielson stuff in London that he was proud to do. And I'm hopeful that it's just part of a bigger story, and not everybody can win all the time. Right. So if you don't have winners and losers, even if it is a little shady in the tactics, then this all is for naught. So I'm pretty happy with where they're going. And I think that he can certainly recover from this and stay babyface.
As a general philosophy, especially as a New Japan fan and just his follower of the business going back to world class and more, philosophically, do you think that it should be as big of a deal as it is generally in American national cable television booked shows for a heel to beat a babyface clean? That if that happens, we all go, well, the babyface is being buried, he won't recover, he must be on his way out, or he's turning heel. Like, should they sprinkle in more? And again, it would be negative at first because people would perceive it initially as, oh, Andrade beat Swerve. Well, that means they're in the Andrade business. They're down on Swerve. Who did Swerve piss off backstage? Is he going to turn because being a scientific rule? He's not a scientific wrestler, but the old term. Trying to go back to the 80s here. Being a babyface isn't serving his purpose, so he's going to not be so wholesome. I think if you spent a year just sometimes having two equals and the heel wins sometimes, I think you could get past it being that big of a deal where you always feel you have to book around it. The downside is if heels look better than the baby faces, fans start cheering them. So I understand, I say this all the time about Levesque booking, I understand the individual case for all the things that we sort of groan or sigh over. The issue is look for opportunities to not do it, or when it's going to cost you very little, so that it doesn't feel like it's just constant cop-out. So was tonight, talk in the macro, Dan, as you're good at, but also talking the micro, was tonight an opportunity because Andrade's relatively new to the main event scene here in AEW? Let him get a clean one over Swerve. Swerve's fine. Was this a chance? It's an opportunity they should have taken, just to have a good battle and have Swerve look kind of bummed out, but give Andrade a strong win without the mule kick?
I would have been perfectly fine with that, no question. And again, Swerve can afford it. I mean, he's fine, and so I would favor that. I teach sports economics in the fall semester, and we share an article from the 1964 Quarterly Journal of Economics. I'm not getting too esoteric here, I promise. It's called The Peculiar Economics of Professional Sports. And this guy predicted like everything that was going to happen with the AFL, the USFL. It's just a fascinating article from 1964. But what they talk about is the Lewis Schmeling hypothesis. And when Max Schmeling beat the unbeatable Joe Louis, the interest level went up for the rematch because all of a sudden there was uncertainty of outcome. When the New York Yankees lost the World Series in, I think, 1956, after winning it 6 years in a row, their attendance went up. Like, if you're a sports fan, the studies show you want to go to a game, you want to go see the Timberwolves or the Vikings or whatever, and you want to see a probability of them winning about 80% of the time. Like, you don't want it to go when they're playing, School of the Poor and Blind, and it's 99% It's like, why am I
I
putting
kind
the
of do
time
actually.
into this?
That
Well,
could be
it could be fun on
yeah.
occasion,
I
but
mean, I should say that. But,
Globetrotters only
yeah.
sell so many tickets.
Yeah.
And so, it's okay to be unpredictable. And yeah, generally speaking, your baby faces should be better wrestlers than your heels. That doesn't mean that they always win and they always have to be cheated to lose. So I would absolutely, and of course, the Japanese scene is much bigger into that traditionally than the American scene. If you go to All Japan, really, in the 90s in particular, and Bob went to all the clean finishes, like it boomed their business, and it wasn't always the baby face winning. And I think that would be my recipe if I was telling people how to book.
It's kind of like jumping in a cold lake on a nice day. At first, you're like, and then a minute later, you're like, okay, this is good. Like it hurts. It's a little painful at first to start doing clean finishes, but there's something good on the other side of that discomfort that I would not advocate for 100% of the time. I think cheating by heels is important in the construct of how we tell stories in pro wrestling in America. I just don't think it should be make it 80 instead of 100, I mean, I don't think it should even be, I think they should cheat more than 60% of the time, but look for opportunities. And I think tonight was one where you got a guy who's established in Swerve, a guy who could really use a clean win in Andrade. They had a good back and forth battle, and then just have Andrade be a dick about it. He can still be a heel afterwards, and don't build in the excuse, Swerve twisted his ankle right beforehand. And, you don't just let it be clean. But there are ways to also tell a story of, he twisted his ankle on a landing, and now, they're applying an ankle lock and the heel wins clean. There's multiple ways to have the heel win clean. Don't always make it the banana pit, slipping on a banana peel moment, but that is another tool besides Lobo's manager interference or distractions.
And the clean finishes are going to create much more heat for the cheating. That's the thing.
Yes. Yep.
It's like if it's always cheating, there's not as much heat because it's just expected. But when it's not when people start to think, oh, well, Andrade won clean, but then in this other match, again, not that FTR really was involved with that interference tonight, but they win with interference. Well, man, we don't like them. I mean, it just adds to the story when there's a mixture.
You mentioned you're a college professor in economics. Fan blast. Before you said that, I don't know if you know.
I saw that.
Dan reminds me of a high school history teacher.
I'll take it as a compliment, I suppose. So
I wouldn't. No, I'm kidding.
My dad taught high school science for 35 years, so I followed his footsteps the best I could.
Teachers are the best. They're just such. I mean, there's one exception. Not in our company. There's like one exception here and there, but they're really, really great people and doing wonderful work. Yeah. All right.
I teach a colloquium class, Wade, where we help the high school science teachers, social science teachers, learn about presenting economics to their students in the state of Kansas, and it's always refreshing. I mean, I shouldn't say kids, but those young folks that are graduating from college, they're going in there. They know what they're getting into. They know they're not getting rich, but they're at least here at K-State, I've always been really impressed with their want to and desire to make the world a better place. So there's still a lot of that out there, despite what you may hear from the negative folks.
Very good. All right. Couple comments on the finish to the Andrade Strickland match. Rosa says it was a pretty strong win, even with a low blow. They were matched up evenly throughout. Andrade's getting a lot of face reaction, so I think the low blow helps. It sets up a rematch too. The thing is there are ways to get heel heat even with a clean win. You just are cocky about it. You little mic work. You're disrespectful. You walk on his chest after you score the pin. It doesn't. You can win clean and be such a sore winner, such a bad, bad winner, bad sport. You can get heat that way. So
just to be clear, I think this was a pretty good finish. I think you suggested a better one. So.
Yep. Yeah. I'm not like, oh my God, they did this. It's just I saw this as a chance to kind of establish a baseline that it can happen, and a reason for it. Okay, we can go back to this match as the show continues, but let's talk about Tommaso Ciampa showing up. The lights went out and came on when his screen was beating heart, and music kicks in, poses on the stage, lights come up, there he is, and he comes out, confronts Mark Briscoe, and wants the title shot. I was hoping I wouldn't say I was assuming, but I was figuring that Ciampa would show up in AEW. He seems like a good fit. He's kind of like Christian when Christian went to TNA. I think that, Christian went to TNA because Vince McMahon told him, from what I heard on a plane ride, I don't see you as a main eventer. Let's, that's just the way it's going to be. And, Christian saw what's happening with Adam. Christian's probably told this story more accurately than I have on podcasting or an interview or something over the years. But, Adam Copeland is a friend and a rival of his, and Copeland was a main event guy. Christian was told he wouldn't be. So he goes to TNA. I think it was 20 years ago, about 20 years ago. He shows up and he gets a main event push and shows he can cut main event promos and all that. With Ciampa, I mean, from what I heard, he asked for more money than WWE felt he was worth. Maybe he had a good money offer from AEW that made him confident to ask for more than he otherwise would. I don't know the details on that. But I also think Ciampa wants to be like a chance to close out his career if his neck holds up by being treated as a serious single star. Not that he wasn't, I don't think he got a bad push in WWE, but he might have craved fresh opponents in an atmosphere where what made him perhaps happiest as a performer in the takeover era of NXT, the black and gold era, that might have been, so fulfilling to him. He just wanted to get a taste of that and a decent or very good contract from AEW. So if that's the case, great. If he just loved WWE and is heartbroken, they offered him, minimum wage for, the bottom tier of wrestler pay, and he's in AEW and just thinking, oh God, this is minor league. I feel bad for him, but hopefully creatively he's excited about this, because I'm excited about it. I think he's a really good fit right now for AEW. He has that NXT takeover shine. There's sort of the stench of being a TNA guy that has followed people around. Like the NXT takeover era is good. Well, maybe not for Roderick Strong as much, like, some people, or Kyle O'Reilly got a little bit pushed, but Ciampa has an edge to him, a ferocity. And he can still go in the ring. We've seen it, and he can cut promos that I think stand out from what we get from a lot of guys in what I think will be the secondary title tier of AEW. So Dan, those are some of my thoughts. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. And I'd be surprised. He just strikes me as the type of wrestler that's going to be all in where he's at. He's not boo-boo face guy and if he was skeptical about going to AEW, that response had to be refreshing for him, because I was excited, and I go in the Twitterverse and I look at things, and a lot of people were pretty darn excited about this one. And, I, as people probably know that listen to me on this show, I watch a little bit of WWE, but I certainly don't follow it consistently the way I used to. And I think, I was watching all that NXT stuff, and as far as I'm concerned, the guy, can really contribute and has been involved in great matches, meaningful stuff. And he seems to be healthy now, which is, obviously a bit of a concern, as you mentioned. So it's a great addition. Like, when you start thinking about guys that fit in AEW, and I don't want to be, Ace Austin was fine tonight, but this is a totally different thing to me. Like, I think it's a much, much bigger deal, and really, really smart pickup, I think, for everybody involved. And, you're starting out with Mark Briscoe. So if that goes bad, then we can flush the guy, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think that he'll answer the call, and he'll be a real contributor in that scene that you've talked about, that again is pretty deep, which is pretty impressive when you have that world title scene that's deep also.
And you want to show there's wrestlers who can still go, who are exciting, who you can sign, who aren't he's pretty late in his career, but he's, but it's not like Adam Copeland where it just feels like he's already in the Hall of Fame, probably, like he doesn't feel that. And if you're AEW, you want to make sure there's talent going both directions. Frankly, I think Powerhouse Hobbs better off in WWE, and Ciampa's better off in AEW. It's like, if you did a trade, I'd consider that a solid trade. I mean, obviously Hobbs has a lot more years in front of him, but Ciampa's plug and play right now. Zach Barber.
The name thing concerns me with Hobbs, but hopefully, I that bothers me when they did it with Jeff Cobb too, and this, that, and the other. It just, to me, it's not a good signal that they are too insecure to let him keep his name, but hopefully it'll work out.
The the choice,
that entrance theme. Yeah. Sorry. I know we can't hear what is on the screen, but Zach mentioned, and you were getting ready to say it.
Yep.
That entrance theme is a baller. Like, that adds to the to the mystique and the presentation quite a bit.
Absolutely. He Ciampa, I will take Ciampa in AEW over Gargano. Gargano would be a good get too. But there's something about Ciampa that I think works better for what AEW can use right now.
Is it fair to say that part of that's Gargano got involved in a little more of the WWE silliness?
Yeah. Yep.
And there's a little bit of a stench there to me. I love Gargano. I went to watch Gargano wrestle with Kevin DeFranco back in the old Stunt Granny PWTorch days in Cleveland, maybe 15, 20, it's got to be 20 years ago now. And Brody Lee was on that card, and Kevin Nash and all the Aaron McGuire. It was a fun little show, Pro Wrestling Ohio, they had going. And, I've been a fan of his ever since, but I agree with you that Ciampa is the bigger addition right now.
Yeah. Adam Kidd says criminally underutilized in WWE regarding Ciampa. Derek Mitchell says no more lights or black hoodies in wrestling. Goodfellow 1422 says song is a banger. Titantron was awesome. His energy was great. Where he lands on the card is an interesting conversation, but if he just wants to wrestle in bangers every week, I'll watch. Love Ciampa. Zach Barber's, said home run entrance theme. Rosa said he has a really good theme. His presentation was strong. Derek Mitchell says, who didn't know Tommaso Ciampa was coming out? As soon as Ciampa left the ring, they already had graphics promoting the match on Collision. Adam Kidd says, great debut. Only thing I would have changed was the lights going out. The graphics being ready, this is a little more forgivable than some, because I assume Tony Khan signed Ciampa. I assume he knew he was coming out. I assume the producers were told, turn off the lights. Ciampa, as a new signing, has told us that he wants to confront Mark Briscoe and challenge him to a match.
Well, and didn't Mark Briscoe say that he was going to have an open challenge and not include the Callis family? So it could be like, okay, Tony, I'm going to have an open challenge. You go find somebody.
Yep.
So it all kind of makes sense.
It didn't. I mean, yes, the lights out trope is too much. I thought that from, when Tony Khan did it very early on, but I thought this was a good version of it. Like, this is why, save it for this, save it for this. So yeah, Ciampa was portrayed in WWE as a top tag team wrestler in a mid-card tag team division. And then the last thing we saw was him losing in a singles feud. So for a secondary title. So I don't think you want to put him on a path towards a world title shot just because he's new and good and has name value from the TakeOver era. I think you do, I think that could define down like, oh, we got someone from WWE, let's overpush him more than people perceive. But I agree with the comments. Like, he can have a great run in the secondary tier. And there's no shame in that. Now, if he's healthy and can go and he really gets over, of course you can move him to world title. But I wouldn't make that. To me, it's not like world title or bust. You got a busy top tier of established guys, and Andrade hasn't been defined down as much. I think he's been ice cold at times, despite his talent as a character in terms of crowd connection. And Ciampa hasn't, but Ciampa is more defined down than Andrade. So I'm good with the slotting. If that's what
I thought it was very appropriate. I think exactly what you're saying. If you put him right in there, oh, he's going to wrestle Kenny next week and the winner's going to wrestle MJF. It's like that's TNA-esque. That's like we're gonna treat anybody from WWE like they're better than our top guys. And maybe eventually he proves that he belongs, but he needs to do that after he's established as an AEW guy if he gets there.
Yep. Jared Lynch, welcome to the chat, says, imagine if Ciampa had just debuted in WWE. He would have shown up in a black hoodie, ski mask. LOL, I wasn't expecting Ciampa at all, but the presentation was perfect. Sometimes the presentation, we see companies with a lot of money who present people as big deals, and they aren't, and fans aren't buying it. You're trying to sell us something we're not buying. Or someone tries to be sinister who can't pull it off. Or tries to drop a comedy gimmick and be serious, and you realize the only thing they had going for them was being funny. Ciampa's none of those things, Ciampa, you want to present as a good get and a big deal, and frame him that way, and I think fans will buy that. Goodfella says, I think Ciampa could be a great IC champ in WWE, but his realistic road to get there would be slim to none. So, yeah, there we are. And then Derek Mitchell says, it seems like Ciampa's DNA, much like Ricochet's, fits perfectly in AEW. Is there anyone left from NXT Black and Gold that Tony hasn't signed? Well, I'm sure there are. It'd be kind of fun to look through some takeovers and go, who would you like to grab, whether they're retired or somewhere else right now, and add to it. What do you think about starting with Briscoe? Like, does that mean Ciampa's a heel or not necessarily, because it's an open challenge?
I don't think so. Now, he may, right. If he joined the John Callis family, would I be completely shocked? No, but I probably, they got enough people right now. So, maybe they both get attacked after the match and he kind of gets on the good guy side there. That would be fine. I just think it's like open challenge, and it's the spirit of the open challenge, where when John Cena did it, or I think Joe or some of the other people that have done it, it's like we want to give a big time wrestler a chance to come in and prove himself against me, because I know I'm good. And I just, by the way, had a really good match tonight, prior to that. And I don't think it necessarily means that he's going to be a heel.
Yeah. They haven't been doing that with Ilya Dragunov in WWE most prominently, or Sammy, and now Carmelo Hayes. So yeah, I mean, it's a good format. I don't mind whoever's copying whom. I'm fine with it. I mean, it's
a sporting thing to do. So
it's exactly,
it's a challenger series at a tennis tournament or something. It doesn't really have to necessarily be considered a copy.
If AEW next week introduces title shot or termination, that is copying TNA's Feast and Fire. Like, that is not a like you say, and a something that just is part of sports and competition. So this doesn't come across as copycat. It comes across as, it's a good idea. They're doing it. We'll do it. Nobody owns it.
Yeah.
There's a post here I wanted to throw up, but I took my eye off it, and now I am stalling to see if I can remember. Oh, I know what it's going to bring up. Derek Mitchell said, as soon as Mark Briscoe mentioned the TNT Open Challenge on this weekend's Collision, very original, by the way, they had the graphic ready. What do you think about them putting it on Collision? To me, it's a couple things. First of all, I mentioned TNA drew 171,000 their first 2 weeks on AMC. Collision drew around 250,000 last Saturday on Collision. So they're within reach. Like, you don't want the story to be what I'm making it right now, which is in its regular time slot. Is it possible that TNA Impact on Thursday on AMC will outdraw Collision on Saturday on TNT? I think 170 versus I think it was 253,000 for Collision. I think that is a big enough gap. That's 80,000. It's probably not going to happen anytime soon. But it could be. Dan, Tony's like, yeah, let's strengthen Collision. Let's just be sure. The other thing is, it's just testing Ciampa's drawing power. Like, let's see what he can do. Let's see if we can pop a little extra rating, especially in the minute by minutes. But they announced it, and it's a nice match. It's a fresh talent, and he did that with CM Punk and Rampage famously. So, I mean, Ciampa's no Punk, but it is something that you do to test someone's drawing power. You can, and it also could just be, nothing. Tony didn't. He's just, we'll put on Collision, and it's not neither an endorsement of Ciampa or a test or anything like that. Any thoughts on them putting that on Collision instead of announcing it for Dynamite next week?
Well, as a general practice, I would do that because there's no doubt that this match would have been at highest the third match on Dynamite next week. And instead it's the number one match on Collision. And when you're already got, again, Kenny and Andrade and MJF and Brody, like, you should balance your stuff. And you should be, this Collision last week with Claudio and Roderick, I guess, really good match and interesting enough, but I don't know that it's going to draw a huge audience, right? Like, you want to have something that maybe is a little more focused on Collision than what they've always done recently. So that's, whether TNA existed or not, I would still encourage that. And I think this is I would, again, if I'm looking at, I could be the main event on Collision or match number 3 on Dynamite, that's the kind of match that should be the main event on Collision, in my opinion, just as a general rule.
Yeah. People are noting in the chat that Royal Rumble Saturday, and maybe Tony just wants to not get buried by people being burned out and moving on with their day after the Rumble, or have a little momentum coming out of the Rumble. People go, "Oh, that's right." After I still want to watch Collision. They have a notable match. Derek Mitchell with a super chat. By the way, super chats welcome and appreciated, everybody. He says, if WWE is McDonald's, then AEW is McDowell's. If anyone doesn't know the reference, shame on you for not seeing Coming to America. Derek, you also had another super chat. No, Zach Barber had a super chat. Thanks, Zach, as always. My top two gripes are the lack of clarity around the Death Riders alignment and Stat still being women's champion. If the goal is getting on Bane, fine. So let's talk about those two topics. Death Riders. I don't know. I mean, they're just sort of in this muddy middle ground that I think creates sort of apathy and ambivalence with the crowd. They're going to like them, but I don't know. It just feels like we never really, and I know Zach's been frustrated because he's wanted the Death Riders to go away, and a lot of people just wanted to see them go clear babyface or break up where, oh, there's a breakup, and I thought there were some real opportunities to do that. And we sort of have this Blackpool Combat Club thing. It's like where we're popular, but we're sort of heels, but what we say you would nod along with and agree with, but I guess we're still going to be heels, but they don't value being booed. I don't know where they are. Zach doesn't see clarity there either. Dan, how are you feeling about the 2026 version of Death Riders compared to maybe your hopes and expectations as 2025 was closing?
Well, I'm a little bit ambivalent about it, I guess, also, but I'm generally okay with it. I mean, they've kind of stumbled into a more consistent set of characters and beliefs, I guess. And you've got, maybe Moxley's a little more face and Danny's wherever and Wheeler's more of a heel, but they all kind of work together reasonably well. There has to be a breakup eventually, but I don't know that I'd rush it. I think it might mean more if they stay together longer. So, and they're not the main event thing, right? I mean, it's okay to kind of have stuff percolating in the background that just kind of exists while our focus is on MJF and Kenny and Hangman and all of that. And the tag team stuff is pretty interesting. I really thought tonight was FTR being the Midnight Express. Mm-hmm. Like they were making their opponents. They were the ones that cheated for Tully and Arn to win the world titles from Rock and Roll Express, I guess. But still, like, they were very happy to get the illegal help, which really wasn't directed at them, to be nice to them. Yeah. But Stokely's like kissing his butt and everything. And I don't know. Like, I thought they really excelled tonight in their role. They gave Davis and Doyle a lot, made them look like killers, and then just kind of got bailed out by Moxley. And, but they're still the champions. So that's their heat. It's perfectly fine. So I'm not as negative about the Death Riders as Zach. Now, Statlander is women's champion. I'm kind of with them on that. I feel like, to me, they've dropped the ball by taking their focus off Toni Storm because she transcended the division. And some people say she still does, but with her being not the champion and less important, to me, this match tonight felt less important. It's like, this is the title match. Statlander's fine, but it was just there. Like, and I know people are like, they don't have enough women's matches. They don't do this. They don't do this. It's like, I don't care how many women's matches they have or how many minutes of women's wrestling they have. I just want the compelling stuff on the TV. And right now that division is a little less compelling at the top. And they had it with Tony. And if they were going to move away from it, they needed to consider the opportunity cost, because now nothing in the women's division feels nearly as important as it did 6 months ago, 12 months ago, in my opinion.
What is Tekla's trajectory as a character? Was this a peak moment? She drops down. It was fine for a TV match, or is this testing the waters of her being more than this?
I'd say more the latter. I thought she did well. Mm-hmm. She has something about her. There's something really compelling there. And then, some of the spider stuff and the athleticism on top of that just kind of is unique, or somewhat unique. I know not completely unique in wrestling, but yeah, I feel like she's got something. And the fact, again, that she's leading that triangle group, there's something to be said just for being a leader and presenting yourself as the leader over time. It just gets in people's heads. Well, this is the number one. And I wouldn't have been shocked if she'd won the title tonight, but I didn't expect it. But I don't think this might, if you can, again, now I don't think Statlander's the strongest world champion. And I've liked her character, although it's been inconsistent.
Yeah.
I think it's not like she's terrible by any means, but it doesn't seem right that she's the world champion. But at the same time, if you can't lose to the world champion and be fine, then you shouldn't be in wrestling. So I don't think this really hurt her at all.
Yeah. I would not have been surprised to see a title change. We've been surprised by some of AEW's title changes, especially in the women's division. And I would have been fine with just going with Tekla if they had all the reasons behind the scenes and on camera to believe in her. I don't think she's been defined down enough, and she's good enough in the ring. Her character's a little kind of WWF 90s cartoony. You got to be a little careful that everything feels sort of rehearsed and blocked out. I'm going to make this move with my arm at this time, and then all that. But I don't think it's disqualifying to do it. Fanblast says Tony is the freaking franchise. You don't go away from that just to give nice employees a chance. I
completely agree with that. And I said it at the time, but of course you're willing to let it play out. And then they put her in the tag team, which is fine for a few matches, but it's like, and her stuff with Orange she's great. Like, she's always going to be entertaining. Mm-hmm. And it's compelling to watch her with Orange, but it's like, that's mid-card comedy. She was main event star. Like, you've lost something there, and you didn't replace it with anything nearly as good. That's like, I've had a lot of praise for AEW tonight, but they kind of dropped the ball there.
Let's see. Dan is exactly right. There's no reason to throttle down on their best woman character. That was Fanblast. Zach Barber says that's because Stat's not Tony. She's good in the ring, but the charisma and personality is not there.
But again, it could be anybody. To answer what Zach said, it's like, if you're replacing your world champion, there's a cost there, because if your world champion is as over as anybody on the card, and you replace with something lesser than, it's on the company too. I'm not saying it's not on Tony. Yeah. If I said it was on Tony, then I'm wrong. But
Tony Storm, not Tony Khan.
Yeah, and he spelled it Toni. Yeah. So I'm not saying it's.
I'm
Tony
just clarifying
Storm
for audio.
Yeah, no, I know. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying it's on Tony Storm at all. But yeah, it is on Tony Khan. Like, you've got to. They've not done the greatest job with the women's division, and I know some people get really upset about it. But when you have something, run with it and run it almost to the ground. Yeah. And they sure didn't do that.
Derek Mitchell says, maybe Wade and Dan will get this reference when Tekla smacked Statlander at the start of the match. He reminded me of Bill Dundee during his Memphis days with his brash, cocky style. What do you think of that, Dan?
Yeah, and I like the start of the match. And again, she is a little bit rehearsed, as you mentioned, but she presents herself pretty well. Like, she's got some confidence in there, and she's a star. But I think it's still a ways away. Like, I think she's still on the upward trajectory, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Statlander's posed on the ring apron, flexed her biceps, and then Tekla recovered and took over the match. I mean,
that was so stupid. Oh yeah,
I
took a note of that. I was like, "What are you?" And like, she didn't. It wasn't like this huge, devastating move where she's like, "Oh well, she threw on a chair on her head from 20 feet so she can showboat." It's like, you're a dumb champion. I did note that in my notes. I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, I mean, baby faces should never, ever. I don't know if there's a context I can think of where they should showboat and lose focus and have that backfire on them.
If they're turning heel.
Well, yeah. Then you're on a journey to being heel. All right. Yeah. The exception is the point. It emphasizes the point. I call it the beer money rule, because when beer money were baby faces in TNA, in the middle of the match, it's the Macarena with Ben Bandito and Brody too. Middle of a match, they would do beer money and strike a pose, and they always booked the heels recovering and attacking them from behind during that. And I mean, come on, like, you got to keep in mind you are trying to present yourself as a professional fighter who prizes winning more than crowd pops or posing for the hard cam. And when it's like the Sammy Guevara rule of profiling for the hard cam or the handheld cam, like, you can't take someone seriously who in character or in real life that they don't understand. It's not helping your character to try to get a opposing spot over if it backfires. Like, I'm not against it if you got your opponent so far down, Dan. You know they're not going to get up,
Right.
and you do it when you're not. Don't have your back turned to them. By all means, stand on the ring apron, keep them peripherally in your vision, and flex a little bit. Showboat. That's fine, but don't have it backfire.
That's what squash matches are for. You know?
Well, we don't have those, so we got to accommodate.
Well, okay, but still, you know, like I watched the UFC Saturday night, and I haven't watched it in a long time. And I was even a little bothered at first by Paddy Pimblett, the way he dances on his way to the ring. And I'm like, dude, you got to have your energy up. But it works for him. And clearly the guy did not have a lack of energy. So by the end, he kind of won me over. But as a sports fan, I'm watching this guy like do this crazy dance on his way to the ring. I'd be like, man, I'd have my head down and a towel over it, and I'd be ready to go fight. And that was just me. But, and this is a good point that Derek's bringing up. I wanted to bring this up.
So Derek Mitchell says Rocky Romero did tonight. He flexed, he showboated at the end of the match with Kenny and paid the price. It should be a heel move, right, Dan?
It was awesome. It was probably my favorite moment of the 2-hour show, frankly. Because I really, we've had this argument about Rocky before, and I'm not saying he's a main eventer, but I kind of like having him on the show. And he's got a little bit of credibility. And instead of him going 50-50 with Kenny Omega, like they gave Kenny so much crap about that Allen Angels match 5 years ago about, like Kenny's in the Kenny business right now. And he's like, I'm at my best. I'm going to be the world champion. And Rocky was stupid heel posing, and Kenny knocked his ass out with that V trigger. And it was great. And I was like, I just put a big smile next to when I wrote that down. I was like, Rocky showboating, smile. Rocky gets destroyed. Awesome. I love that. I love that match. I really thought that was a good showcase for Kenny and a good use of Rocky.
Speaking of squash matches, it wasn't quite a squash, but it's the spirit of it. Show off your finishing moves, show off your personality, show off your signature spots. Dominate enough you can play to the crowd a little bit and have them enjoy it. I wrote in my report, by the way, Omega caught a kneeling Romero with a running knee to the back of his head as Romero was Sammy Guevara-ing for the camera. That was in my written report at PWTorch. And again, I had no problem with the heel doing it. I mean, it's hard to take Rocky seriously when he's in against somebody like Kenny Omega, but that's fine. It makes you want to root against the guy. He got what he had coming. Yeah. Zach Barber.
How dare he showboat against Kenny? Oh, he just got knocked out. Okay.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yes, exactly. Zach Barber says, at least the beer money chant was over with the crowd strong. The spirit in which you're saying it is, at least if they did something really stupid, at least the fans in the building enjoyed it. But there is, and I've talked to people in wrestling, where wrestlers do things and they justify doing dumb, counterproductive things to the whole structure of how pro wrestling works. As long as they get a reaction from the crowd. Like, that's why you do, like, the misdirection angles, where there's no reason anyone would participate in the misdirection. Why pretend you're someone's friend before you attack him unless it gets you an advantage? Why pretend to have an injury, Seth Rollins, if it doesn't? To what ends? Does it help you in any way? When you do something just to get a crowd reaction, but there's no logical reason in real life somebody would do that because it doesn't give you an advantage, you're chipping away at the ability of people to immerse themselves and lose themselves in the stories being told. And now it just becomes about crowd participation and crowd pops. And I mean, so to me, the fact that they got a chant was why they did it. They should have been
more
told or steered away from it, or smart enough to say, wait, we get a reaction, but it makes us look like utter fools who can't focus on the prize. I don't want to cheer a wrestler who cares more about being cheered than winning.
If you're over, the fans will celebrate with you after the match.
Yep.
It's okay to celebrate after you win.
Yeah,
really, it is. That's what happens in real sports all the time.
Yep. Yeah, and there's a lot of wrestlers who do it, and it's annoying. All right, let's see. What was I going to follow up on with the women? I guess you said nice things about Statlander. Are you fine with Statlander remaining champion for a while, or have you seen enough? And it's like, no, let's figure out who the next person is going to be. Couple comments in the chat. David Wilson, welcome to the chat. David says, I disagree. Stat is awesome. One man's voice says Stat is the man. Kyle Fassel says, when the TBS champ seems more important than your world champ, something ain't right. Would rather have her and Willow switched around. And then Zach Barber says, if you're going to beat Toni Storm, it should have been Megan Bayne.
I can't argue with that. I like Statlander. To me, there's something missing with her as world champion. It just doesn't feel like the world champion. And I can't really put my finger on it. I think she does have a nice chemistry with Harley and Willow. It's a nice group.
Yep.
And I think the tag belts being where they are just fine. And that's taken a step back, and it was natural they were going to, because they really put a focus on it when they established the titles, and that's okay. So yeah, I wouldn't have to replace her tomorrow, but I just don't think it's, and I could be wrong. I mean, some of the people in the chat disagree. I just don't think it's building to anything that makes the women's division feel more important, in my opinion. So I try to find, and Megan Bayne could be that person. And yeah, we're getting a lot of pushback in the chat. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
You're not wrong. The chat's wrong. One man's voice says, disagree, status cool. She's earned the spot. She's like a young Roman, not yet comfortable talking, but one day she'll be great. I think Statlander is in the top third of the women wrestlers in the ring in AEW, but I don't think she's special enough in the ring that you're like, oh, we have to push her despite her utter discomfort and awkwardness in talking and her body movements and all of that. They might have been onto something with the alien gimmick, because she doesn't at times seem particularly human in her movements and charisma, and everything feels like she practiced it in front of the mirror and is reciting it. That said, I thought tonight the dynamic with Harley and Willow and her, there was something there that you can build on. It just needs more attention, and they just need somebody who Statlander trusts and can handle being honest with her and say, let's figure something out here. Truth is, you're cringe on the microphone, and it just is, what you're trying to do isn't natural. What is natural for you? Let's figure it out. And I think there's something there that you can do with her look and her demeanor, but they haven't found it yet. And I think there's something there to do. Don't give up on her. But
I would consider, Wade, and this is considering he could do it. And if it is terrible, I wouldn't put it on TV. But maybe ever do one of those sit downs with Jim Ross and just see how it comes out. And if it's bad, be like, okay, this isn't going to make air. But if it's good, like, I cannot figure out, because she did all that weird stuff before, she's a determined wrestler. She wants to win. That's about all I know about her character. And she's friends with Willow and Harley. Okay, great. And then she had the falling out with so-and-so for a while, and then they got back together and whatever. But it's, there's not a lot of depth to the character. And I think if you're the world champion, it helps to have depth to the character.
Yeah. Zach Barber says someone needs to tell Stat to just be herself and stop trying. That's the thing, is I haven't seen, like Bianca Belair, you saw examples of, oh, that's how she talks when she's not doing the same gimmick she did at NXT as a heel and, being kind of a cartoonish character. That what she is when she's just lets her guard down and she's just who she really is, that's way more marketable. Do that. There's other wrestlers where it doesn't work. They're too nice and they're trying to be heel, or they're whatever. I mean, sometimes you need to pay something else on. With Stat, I just don't know what that is, but people who are around her, when the light's not on, kind of figure something out.
She's obviously well liked. I mean, she was on BTE for quite a while, and they usually put those people on that they get along with, and I'm sure she's been around some of those folks for a long time and everything. And but yeah, I don't like having a champion that I really don't know that much about, I guess, in terms of their character.
And One Man's Voice is, that's it. You guys want a character. She'll find it and be the star you want her to be. Not everyone gets it overnight. But the thing is they're trying to give her a character, and we're arguing against it. Let her be her. Let her be who she really is. That Yeah, like Zach says,
And
it feels like
should you be figuring out why you're the world champion? Like that's my thing.
Yep.
Like again, I'm not saying cut her. I'm not saying that.
Right.
I think there's something there, but it's not fully developed, and she's theoretically the number one star in the company on the women's side.
Yep.
And then and again, I hate to keep coming back to this, but it's like I'm coming back to Toni Storm, which is like you can't take your eyes off the TV when she's on there.
Exactly. Zach Barber, in response to One Man's Voice, who said, she'll be fine. Let her be the star. Let her, well, what is it quote today? You guys want a character. She will find it and be the star you want her to be. Not everyone gets it overnight. And Zach replied to that, I feel like she's trying too hard. That's the point. Exactly. And now Kyle says what you said, Dan. Someone figuring it out shouldn't be the world champ. It cheapens the division. Pickens in the chat says, she has been around for 6 years. I want her to do well, but it isn't going well and never has. One Man's Voice then chimes in and goes, okay, fine. That is her then. A woman who busts her ass in the ring and it's too nice for fans. It's not that she's too nice. It's that she's an alien and she's reciting lines that she memorized in front of a mirror. And she's, I mean, like the last couple months have just been cringe, and we're rooting for her to not be cringe. Like don't try to be something you're not. But again, the dynamic with Willow and Harley, I think there's something there that can draw her up. It's just she has to embrace some quirkiness about her in a way that I feel like she might be running from.
Yeah, and again, I have very little doubt, and I could be wrong because wrestling, you never know, but I have very little doubt that she'd be someone I'd enjoy having a beer with. Like she seems like a nice person. I'm not trying to be like overly critical. I'm just I want a full character.
We are not having this conversation about Rocky Romero because Rocky Romero does not have potential to be a top star in AEW. We're not having this conversation about people we don't like or like. This isn't. It's blunt, but I'm not her mom. Like she's on national TV, getting paid to be someone who they expect fans to watch on TV in a competitive environment. When you put yourself out there, part of being a public figure is being evaluated, whether you're getting more of a push than others below you on the totem pole. That just comes with the territory. It's not about no one's being mean-spirited or cruel, but we can be blunt. It's not, we're not her sister.
Wait, I mean, I evaluate our TAs here at K-State, and some of them know the material and they can get up there and they can recite every fact. And I'm like, guys, like you've got to present it in a way that people are going to pay attention. Yep. Like we can put you in the classroom. We may have to if we're stuck, but your evaluations are not going to be that great if you don't tell the story in a way that's memorable and in a way that people relate to and appreciate and enjoy. Mm-hmm. Like it's all about presentation in wrestling 20 times more than academia. But my job is not just going in there and knowing the unemployment rate. I got to present it. I mean, I show videos, I do experiments, I showed the Let It Go from Frozen on Friday. And I said, okay, here's Elsa or whatever the hell her name is. I don't even know the show very well, but I'm like, watch this video. Where are they talking about sunk cost properly? What's the line in the song that reinforces what we've been teaching? Like, and I stole that from somebody else, but be creative, like present it in a way that people are going to remember. And that's my job. And that's the wrestler's job too.
Well put. Some chat comments on stat. One Man's Voice says, yes, it's a lot of pressure on her. Again, she'll get it. I'll take her ring work over her character work any day. You have Toni as the face of the women. Stat will be in that spot one day. Goodfella says, stats like Bailey. Too grateful. They're badasses. Done the work and now run it like the bosses they are. Derek says, stat reminds me of DDP when he was in WCW. He had 1,000 different things with his gimmick, and Bischoff said, find your niche. Tone it down of all the things you do. Kyle Fassel says, is someone figuring it out? Also, someone figuring it out wouldn't be the men's world champ. We don't want the women's division to have exceptions. It needs to be held to the same standard. Pickens said the Yuta and Stat odd couple was a missed opportunity. They wouldn't be
they had an interesting dynamic there. They did.
Yeah. And they're not the odd couple like they're different. They're the odd couple in that they're both odd. Not quite the theme of the TV show, but point taken, I think. Fanblast says her fellow employees and boss clearly like Statlander. She seems nice and hardworking, but that doesn't make you cut out to be champ. One Man's Voice says, for now, it's growth. It's not perfect, but it is development. Then Ducky D says, Toni Storm is a bit of an outlier. The stat reign isn't really going so bad to me. it seems to be about as effective as any non-Tony Storm reign in AEW's history. I mean, that's not great praise, but it might be close enough to true to land. Then Zach Barber says she called herself more than a woman, and her finisher is Night Fever. It seems like she might be a Bee Gees fan. Goodfellas says, yeah, that could help Stat and Yuta. Good call. All right. I want to shift back to Kenny Omega for one moment. You've seen his body of work. They're really stressing, like Renee, like, oh, Kenny, it's good to see that you have an athlete's, like, what was the term? That, oh God, what in the interview, like they're like talking about him like he's a child who's like figured something out. Like, Kenny, good for you. You're not in terrible shape anymore. But I get why they're doing it, and because there's obviously a lot of truth to it also in terms of him not being in shape. He's saying he feels better than he ever has. Is that working for you as a talking point, in part just to get people, hopefully it's true and he's not just, miserable after every match for 6 days and barely can get out of bed. Is this working for you? Going, the Kenny's back, like Kenny is back. And then part 2, Dan, is he? You've watched him in his prime. Who is this 2026 Kenny compared to, 2018 Kenny?
We're not going to know if he's back to 2018 Kenny until he goes 45 minutes or something in a match, to be fair. He looks good. He's been impressive. He's been sharp. He's been crisp. He looks like physically he's back. I mean, the guy almost died. So he was in really rough shape. Obviously, we know that. The match he had with Gabe Kidd last Tokyo Dome stands up to anything he ever did. Now, it was a little more bells and whistles than some of the great matches he had, but man, I mean, storytelling at the highest degree. But he said after that match, he was really hurting. And so time's going to have to tell. I have no problem with them. I'd like to see Kenny, and again, this is part of the fan in me, I'd like to see Kenny with the world title again. I know what they're doing right now is very compelling. Max with all these challengers makes the entire division seem super important and super great. But, he's probably not going to wrestle 10 more years, probably not 5. And so I'd get back in the Kenny Omega business while I can, because he is the wrestler more than anyone else, in my opinion. And I know some people will say Hangman, and maybe that's true down the road. But you could stand him up to the WWE and say, match this guy, because you can't. And that's, at his best, there's nobody that can match him. Maybe Okada, I guess. But Okada doesn't have the entire, not that Kenny's interviews are traditional in the greatest sense, but still there's a little bit different in Kenny's presentation that to an American audience that I would put ahead of Okada. And Okada hasn't, anyway, Okada was great with Tanahashi, but he's still kind of AEW Okada anyway. So I'd go with Kenny. And that's me just being the fan rooting for my favorite guy. And if you want to accuse me of that, I'll take the heat. But man,
well, he's your favorite guy for a reason. I mean, you're not.
Yeah, no,
it's not because you like his hair. I mean, you think he's a great wrestler and all around.
And he's my favorite guy as of January 6th, 2026, because my favorite guy retired. And so
John Cena, yeah,
figured me out, Wade.
Got to be specific, or you can get in trouble. So one man's voice says Kenny against MJF, take my money.
I really at least hope they're going there, and I think they are.
Yeah, I think. I don't think you tease it this much. Yeah. And it was Tony Schiavone, and the quote was, "Congratulations, Kenny, for being back in classic wrestling shape." It's like you were a slob.
Oh my God, did Taz get some lines in on Tony tonight, and on somebody else? The one about. Maybe it was Excalibur. It's like, it's not my fault you're too cheap to buy a good hot water heater. I don't remember the context of that, but it's like when you take a shower and all the hot water goes away, he's like, well, don't be so cheap and get a good hot water.
It was about, what was that? It's like, if you're taking a hot shower and someone flushes the toilet and then the water pressure goes down. And By the way, Taz had a great line, and I meant to mention it earlier when who was showboating, not Rocky.
I do remember. Let me try.
Statlander. It was Statlander, and
Yeah.
so Excalibur goes, "Oh, Statlander lost her focus there for a minute," and Taz does. I mean, Taz's color commentary is high IQ. He saves situations. He understands the peril, the downside of certain things that wrestlers do. In his mind, he's critiquing it, and then he's like, and Corey Graves does this too, and Wade Barrett does too. The good color commentators know what the fan at home sees and tries to figure out a way credibly to frame it and soften the blow. So he says, sometimes when you're in the ring, the adrenaline's flowing and you're on a roll, the crowd gets you going. You get excited and you can kind of lose yourself in the moment, and then it can backfire on you. And yeah, he said, this is what I wrote in my report. Taz tried to explain the mindset of a wrestler getting caught up in feeling good about yourself and getting distracted. And he didn't say it to Barry Statlander. He said it just to say, if you're thinking what Wade Keller's thinking, and Dan's thinking, and a lot of people are thinking, which is, why would she pose in the middle of a match? Let me try to cover for her a little bit. And that's, color commentator to the rescue sometimes. So what else? Yeah, go for it.
Who was dressing Tony Schiavone?
Yes. Oh my God. So people have been giving him a hard time, including in articles on PWTorch. Why is Tony's got to drop the sneakers, the loafers, in a suit? So I don't know if he's been hearing that or what. He comes out in the loudest yellow, like Aurora yellow. I don't even know what color yellow is it.
I thought it was toxic green or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's something like that. But he has a perfectly matching tie. And I almost think it worked. Not for like Tony, except in an ironic way. He wasn't obviously trying to be cool. He was self-aware. But oh my God, was that something?
There's no way Taz rehearsed that line. He just popped it out.
No way.
And I was like, again, that and Rocky were like, and it was a great show, but those were like my two highlights of the show.
Yes. Yeah. Derek Mitchell goes, that Taz's line of the night was, who's been dressing Tony Schiavone lately? He was wearing a black suit, neon tie, and neon green Nikes. I don't know, it looked yellow on my TV, but neon green, that's fine.
Neon green, I like.
I'll concede that
description, I think.
Yeah, neon lime green. I got to check the color setting on my TV or my eyes, because that looked well, it looked more on the yellowish than the green, but it's obviously a blend. Let's see.
Somebody needs to share a photo of that if you could do that in the chat. That was just phenomenal.
First Derek says you can wear sneakers with a suit, but they have to be Jordans, not neon green Nikes. Well, if the tie matches, I think all rules are off there. Kyle Fessel says Tony's giving off a midlife crisis fashion vibe. Midlife? Tony will take that. Tony's on his last legs. He's not midlife. Sorry, Tony, I don't mean that really. But yeah, if you can be like going on 70 and being someone can say you're having a midlife crisis, I think that person will take it. Or they're going to be like, I don't want to live 70 more years. They might be upset. As my grandma, as she got into her 90s, said, Jesus, please take me. I'm ready. Over and over again. There comes a point.
Happy 90th birthday to Alan Alda today, by the way.
Oh, wow. That's sweet.
I saw a lot of stuff with he and the MASH guys on Twitter and out celebrating at the beach. And maybe my all-time favorite actor. So
that's great.
Just a quick thing. Yeah.
Cool. Any other Taz lines you got in your notes?
Those were the two, I think.
Yeah.
Who was? I wrote that down because I started laughing so hard. I'm looking at my notes, but I think those were the main ones. Yeah.
I thought, by the way, it's a small thing, but Stokely at ringside, I think it was Taz like, "You doing okay?" And Stokely's like, "Yeah, hanging in." Like he's so believable. As this, I don't know. Stokely's it's what he's doing is working for me right now. I think they've got a couple managers who are hitting their stride. Don Callis for a while now. What was Don Callis's line tonight? Don's one. He said, "I don't think I can stretch anyone, but I think I can stretch Prince Nana." But there was actually a more humorous line when he stood on the stage that I can't recall at the moment. But yeah, he was.
I wrote something else down to Taz's name, and wait, I can't read my own writing now. Unfortunately, I'm sorry.
I stopped writing it. Yeah,
he was on tonight. It was good. It was good. I enjoyed Taz a lot.
Yep. All right. In no particular order here. Brody King. We mentioned in passing earlier when talking about the top tier of contenders for MJF. What'd you think of the exchange with MJF and Brody tonight? I thought it was a good night for MJF again.
Mm-hmm.
And
he popped Brody with the one line.
Yeah. So Brody is, like, we talk about being comfortable in your own skin. Like, Brody King is comfortable with who he is, and Statlander's not. Like, there's, in terms of once the lights on, I'm not saying outside in real life, but Brody's just like, I am who I am, and I'm gonna, he's anti-ice t-shirts, good for him. And that's part of that is MJF calling him, you look
the only liberal, or the only Nazi looking liberal in the world or something.
Yeah.
And Brody took it in the spirit which it was intended. It was a funny line. So,
and I don't think there was any other attempt by MJF to get in a shock jock zinger. Everything else was talking down to Brody King, and ultimately building up their match. And the goal of a heel isn't to get yourself over; it's to get your babyface opponent over. The side effect of that is magically you get over.
Yeah.
So MJF is following that now. MJF likes, to a fault, he likes to be like, I don't know that this literally goes through his head, but like, he says things where it seems like he can't wait to get back to the locker room to look at his phone and see what people are saying about what he said. And we got a little bit of that with the mention of Malachi Black. He mocked him for being spooky and turning the lights on and off, which of course popped me. And then he mocked him for following Buddy Matthews and said, how's his ankle coming? And now, and then you've been following around a guy who's a total loser in Bandito. But you should follow me around. I'd pay you handsomely. You're big and talented. I could use a guy like you, but we want to fix your aesthetic. And the exact quote was, with love and respect, never in my life have I met a liberal man who looks more like a Nazi. Brody laughed. MJF then chastised the fans for not being silent. And he said he could make Brody look presentable. I know the last season of Queer Eye is out on Netflix, and maybe MJF will join that team next, and Brody can be a client in the last episode of the season or something, or a spinoff. Maybe that's MJF's next gig. But so I think Brody's good. I think he's a likable babyface. I think fans are behind him. I think MJF has found a good rhythm, a good balance. There's a maturity to the quantity. It feels like it's curated more than it had been. As people know, I don't like to see security guards get beat up. I like to see when you break up a 2 count in a tag match, really break it up. Don't just pat someone on the back. And I don't like overmodulating and yelling on the microphone. And MJF did that needlessly, and it took me out of his promos. He didn't do it. Like, he's got a streak going where he's not needlessly just starting to yell at the top of his lungs, and it's so much better. The experience of his segments are just top notch right now. This is him leaning into his skills, but curating, and I think a mature way that is a sign of progress. What he can be at his best. Dan, your thoughts on Brody and MJF?
Yeah, I mean, Brody, good presentation as a babyface. You said I haven't beaten anybody. You're right. I've beaten some guys that aren't at my level.
Yep.
And I found a guy who I think you'd agree is great. And if I beat him, I deserve a world title shot. And guess what? It's you. And Tony Khan's giving me the challenger match next week because
the look on MJF's face as this is going on was how a heel should sell it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it was a really good segment. And Brody's been great. This is one of these things where presentation matters. Like, I didn't know how well the Brody Bandito team would go at first, and they gelled together really well. They had good chemistry. They did good interview segments together. They had great matches. They're no longer the champions. They both come out better on the other side. And, I don't know that I doubt that. Brody might win next week. I don't see him winning the title, but that's okay. Like, again, you're wrestling the world champion and you're presenting yourself like a star and like you belong. And that alone is worth a lot. So yeah, it's, again, another good part of the show tonight. There wasn't really anything all that bad. I know we talked about the Statlander. I mean, the match was fine. It was pretty good. I don't think it's a world champion level presentation, but there was nothing egregiously bad on this show at all.
Yep. Agree. In the chat, Kyle Fassel says, let's get in the Brody King business. I mean, people have been saying that for a couple of years at least. I don't think it's been defined down enough that if this catches on a little bit, I mean, I don't think Tony Khan had a master plan to go this far with Kyle Fletcher this quickly, but it just clicked. Like it
And
was
again,
working.
Wade, the thing about AEW is he's a guy that for at least a year or two did not mind going into the match where he's stepping up, and he lost pretty much every time. Like when you saw Brody King and maybe even Mark Briscoe, I'm trying to think of a name of, you'd be like, well, Brody's going to probably lose in the end, right? But he's good, but he never wins. And now he's stepped up 2 levels since then. And he may not make it to the tippy top, but he's a player and he's important and he's a really great character.
Jumping back quickly to Tony Schiavone, and then we'll get to more comments on Brody King here. In response to Kyle Fassel, who said Tony's giving off midlife crisis fashion vibes, and I said no, he's not midlife. Then I did add, and I didn't quote it, end of life crisis? ? We're giving Tony a hard time tonight.
I love Tony. In case anybody wonders.
Hang in there, Tony. Hang in there. The Just for Men is helping Tony. There we go. Derek Mitchell with the facts. Tony Schiavone is older than Johnny Weaver, Bob Cottle, Lance Russell, or Gordon Soley in their primes. Well, no one said Tony's in his prime. He's way past his prime. Okay, no. Now we're just piling on. Another Taz line. No, was it? He said Nana should be banned for lack of use. LOL. Was that
Taz? Maybe, I don't know who said that one.
No, it was during. It was Callis because it was during the Swerve match.
Okay,
yeah. That was a good line too. I'm looking for
Callis. Like sometimes he's a little distracting on commentary. He's usually good, but I thought he was a particularly good in the main event. Like it all flowed together nicely. The announcing.
The thing with Callis that I always thought, and I pushed for it. Is if you get in the Don Callis business and you get him on TV every week, when you think of Dynamite, when you think of AEW, you should think, I'm going to be seeing Don Callis. I mean, like that, it shouldn't be every once in a while he shows up. And I wanted him on TV every week in significant segments, not just on commentary, gathered with his wrestlers, doing the pre-tapes, doing promos on the stage, all that stuff. Get him on TV more. Or don't put him with main event stars. Like make a choice. Like, it's like if you have... Like Sam Darnold was going to be the backup for the Vikings if J.J. McCarthy had a good preseason this year, and they would have been paying it. They'd have had to pay him way too much money, and you can't sit somebody that good on the bench. I mean, whatever. I mean, he probably would have started no matter what if we had signed him, and then we wouldn't have as good of a defense because we wouldn't have had any money to spend on defense. It didn't help the Vikings, but then injuries didn't either. But that's a whole side topic. Congrats to Sam though. You don't want Don Callis on the bench. You want him with starter minutes was always my point. And I think the more TV time he got, the better he'd get. Part of what I thought with him is he's just not sharpening. He's not sharpening his verbal tools, because he's not on TV enough. And if he was kind of going through the motions. When I get TV, I just do my shtick. If you're on every week, you got to be creative. You got to put thought into it. And so I think he is. And I think he's turned into a highlight. Both he and Stokely are real highlights right now as managers.
Yeah.
Back to Brody King. Derek Mitchell said Brody King discussed being in an eliminator match next week against MJF with Tony Khan privately, but Khan didn't inform him his world champion in advance. Yes, and that upset MJF, which was fine.
I mean, they have a history of acrimony. So, is Alabama's a bunch of cheaters at basketball. They should have to forfeit the game they played Missouri last night. If Greg Sankey ends up punishing Alabama because they're playing an ineligible player and they have a corrupt judge that allowed it, like, they don't have to go to Nate Oates and say, oh, you're my buddy, I'm going to tell you everything I'm going to do. So I have no problem with that. Sorry, I'm still a little bitter about we got smoked, but it's ridiculous. This guy plays in the G League and then he gets a corrupt judge to let him back into the college basketball world, which most of our listeners are probably unaware of and don't care, but there you go.
Sometimes we don't care about our listeners. We just talk about what we want to
That's
talk
right.
about. Try not to do too much, but indulge us every once in a while. Kyle Fassel says, let's get in the Brody King business. I guess I think I read that. Derek Mitchell says, I cringed when I heard it, but MJF said he never meant a liberal man who looks more like a Nazi more than you. I can see that being a divisive line, Dan. Some people going, let's not go there.
You know what? MJF is Don Rickles to me today. I just let him go. And some people may not, but I don't know.
I would let him go, but I'd also make sure if I'm Tony Khan, give me a heads up. Let me decide. If I'm not sure, let me ask a couple other people. It's just why deal with headaches. We'll see. Kyle Fessel says, would love to see Brody win a secondary title after this. I don't see him winning the big one. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Hey, Brody King and Tommaso Ciampa against babyface Brody King. If they end up there this summer, that could be great.
And again, there's legs in that tag team too. I mean, they can go back there. So there's
true.
A lot of things he can do.
Yeah. Goodfella says Nazi and Lib line drop from MGS promo was a funny barb. So a vote for it there. Ducky D says, I missed half the promo, the Brody half. If Brody can up his promo game, I think they should try to give him a more sustained push. He's got everything else, in my opinion. The thing about Brody is he looks like you wouldn't want Brody to do, oh, I'm mad and I'm going to bark like Bruiser Brody and I'm going to talk like Karrion Kross and I'm going to grunt and growl. There's no affectation to his promo delivery. He's just a dude. And you look at him, you go, he's authentic. If he cut his beard, I think he was like going to be selling board games at a James by Games or Games by James or something. Like you would be you would, but the beard, and then when you see all the tattoos, and then you see his how comfortable he is in his own skin at this point, that is appealing.
Yeah,
he's
and
like
the fact that he's not a character in the interviews, as you said, because then when he barks in the matches, it's like, hey, I'm in a fight, I'm firing myself up.
Yep,
I'm channeling my inner Bruiser Brody. That's fine.
Yep,
but he's not some joke of an interview that's like one dimensional, Bruiser Brody wannabe, which wouldn't work.
Yep. Zach Barber says straight eye for the straight guy. LOL for MJF and Brody King. Going back to that. Derek Mitchell, I just wasn't a fan of Brody King. Discussed being in the eliminator match. Oh, okay. I already read that. Oh, sorry about that. Kyle Fassel says Brody has a cool alternative look that really shows some of his character before even saying a word. Big up for him. Agree. Zach Barber says MJF has really hit a stride. He's cutting good promos without veering into Don Rickles' routine as he showed tonight. He can insult someone and keep it moving. Yes. Goodfellas said I've been advocating for Brody. That is good. Just looking here. If there's anything else on this topic. We got a super chat. Let's see where it takes us here. Derek Mitchell, thank you so much for the super chat, Derek. Very generous and kind. Speaking of being in the Brody King business, Don Callis should be promoting Kyle Fletcher as the crown jewel of the group who will main event Double or Nothing or All In. Let's pause there so we don't forget. Okada apologized to Fletcher. Takeshita did not like that Fletcher accepted Okada's apology. What do you make of that dynamic? Are they stringing it out too long? Kind of like the Death Riders? Can we get to it already? Whatever's going to happen. Or did this work for you in kind of re-sparking that story?
It very much works for me. It's kind of in the underground or the periphery of the story, but when it comes to a head, it needs to be the focus. And I don't know when that should happen exactly. But the confrontation, whoever the confrontation is, whether it's Takeshita and Fletcher, or obviously getting back to Takeshita and Okada, like it needs to be a really big deal. And so I don't think they've stretched it out too long. I mean, I thought tonight was compelling. Like, not every, it's not a mic. Wrestling doesn't always have to take place in a microwave. Like this, I think people are still interested. I certainly am. And, Okada didn't say bitch at the end, so maybe he was being sincere. Some people have hypothesized that, or at least he came across as sincere as he ever has. He's a heel, so you got to remember that. But I like the story. I like the dynamic, and I've yet to be bored by it myself. I'm very intrigued by it.
Comment in the chat. Where did I go with that? I'll read this. Goodfellow says, I don't give MJF some room. He still needs to be smart and consequences if he pushes too far and misses. That's his game, in my opinion. Goodfellow says, Takeshita kind of feels like the jewel to me as a pushback to Kyle Fletcher. Those
are good choices to have.
Exactly. Yep. I Derek says Tony Khan's mission should be positioning Kyle Fletcher as the next young star of AEW to become world champion. It just doesn't seem likely for 2026, but I could be wrong. Goodfella says, yeah, Fletcher is awesome. I'm in no rush. Like you said, you don't have to microwave Kyle Fletcher to be the centerpiece act. They got other people who are ahead of him in line, and if you got him signed long-term and he's healthy, no rush. No rush. Zach Barber says, this is working way more than the Death Rider stuff. I get the feeling that Fletcher sides with Okada and attacks Takeshita with phony remorse. Yeah, I could see that. All right. The Young Bucks recast themselves. They brought back the tassels, super kicks, and super kick parties. The vignette included them saying, humility helped us get back to our old selves. Matt Jackson put everyone on notice. Nick Jackson said they'll see them in Las Vegas next week. What do you think about the Bucks just kind of going back to old tasseled super kick party Young Bucks?
I think it's the natural progression. I like it. I watch Being the Elite every week. They've been coming out with shorter episodes recently, and they've been kind of telling that story, on the show. And at first they were insincere, and then they kind of felt bad about it. And yeah, I mean, they're great, and they'll be a good, I don't know when and if they'll work their way back into title contention, although I get the impression that might be coming fairly soon. And that's never a bad thing because the matches are always great. And you have an asset like that, you can use that to build other people, as they've done with Jet Speed and some of the other teams. But eventually you have to refocus on them because you don't get that asset forever either. So I kind of I thought all the I was going to mention this and then we brought them up. I liked all the backstage stuff tonight, including the Callis family stuff. So I thought it all fit together nicely. And you're muted, Wade.
Quoting Tony Schiavone about Kenny being back in classic wrestling shape. The Young Bucks are in as good a cosmetic shape as we've seen in 7 years. And that's been noticeable. So it does seem like maybe they're feeling better too. Just physically, they've had, plenty of time off. When they work hard. Almost always, they want to be the best tag team in the world or of their era. But yeah, they seem like they're in a good spot. Dan.
And on BTE, they keep mentioning this might be the last run, which I don't know if they mean that 1 year, 2 years, whatever, but they're going to go out near their peak. I mean, I've always felt that they're not going to be these guys that are doing nostalgia match. I mean, if they do, it would be like Bryan Danielson talks about going and wrestling a fun match in Arena Mexico in 20 years or something that's totally different than what it used to be. Like they would retire and then maybe they're not going to just keep wrestling until they don't have it anymore. I really don't believe that would happen. So they want to be athletic and great wrestlers while they're still participating.
They're making what in AEW? $2.5-3.5 million a year.
Your guess is way better than mine, but that sounds about right.
Yeah, I mean, I just, they played, WWE side, they're negotiating with WWE, that might take them, and Tony Khan wanted them, and they were part of the whole movement to start AEW, and they had the EVP titles. I don't know. I mean, but let's just say on average, it was close to $3 million for the last 7 years. Yeah. After taxes, even if you got a gambling problem, it's not too bad. Nick Jackson, you have $10+ million in the bank. That, what is it, Dan, when you kind of just have FU money, like if you're not super extravagant, like was it 3-4 million? It just kind of gives you sort of time freedom. If you want to work harder for money, you can, but you can kind of live nicely off of that.
Yeah. Eventually you have a backward bending labor supply curve way to teach economics. Like there is a wage at which when you make more money, it's like, I'm going to purchase some leisure with this money. I'm not just going to keep working harder for an extra whatever per hour. Mm-hmm. And I think they've been wise about putting themselves in and out of focus. And I have no problem with them being a focus right now. If, especially with, I know they've done it a few times, but I don't get tired of the stuff with FTR as long as they have the belts.
Yep.
If they want to build to that, I mean, it's the greatest tag team match you could probably find right now. So why not do it?
Yeah. But there comes a point where I get the sense, I mean, they're Matt is 40, Nick's 36. They have a few years left if they want to, physically probably, but mentally, I mean, they might want to run a wrestling school and not get on airplanes. They might still love wrestling, but I don't want just don't want to be flying across the country anymore. I mean, that wears you out. And the fact is it's easier to keep doing something you love beyond more than financial independence, which they have now. It's you'll keep doing it if you love it, and the money's just sort of like, okay, nice, I can set my family up too in addition to me or something like that. It's it's almost generational money. But if they are happy with $6, $8, $12, $14 million in the bank account for each of them, invested well, my God, just do whatever you want to do every day of your life. We're not here long. Don't do something that makes you unhappy or is going to break down your body or mentally fatigue you if you have other interests. There's people who can't imagine Ric Flair be like, I went stir crazy at home. Dolph Ziggler, I think, said that. I didn't know what to do, when I got cut. I just got to get back on the road. I only know one thing. Other people are totally good disappearing into Steve Austin is fine not being in the spotlight. Yeah. Like, just let him go race around in some motorized vehicle for a TV show or for fun with no one else around. He's happy. Like, if that's who the Bucks are, great.
I could certainly see those guys, and I know their kids are still pretty young, but like, I want to watch my kids play high school sports. Like, they're family men, it seems like, to the nth degree. I don't want to over hypothesize or whatever. And the other thing, though, that would lead me to think they might stick around a little bit longer is, and you would have a better insight on this than I would, but I think there was a period of time where they became very frustrated with their lack of creative input in the company. And I think that's gone. Like, I think at this point, they're just like, hey, we're going to contribute to our own stuff. Tony does respect us. He just kind of took more creative than maybe we thought he would at one point. I think if there was ever any concern about that, it's way in the past. And they're very comfortable with contributing as much as they can and giving ideas while not really being the creative forces in the company.
I'll stir trouble deviously and say one of them is totally okay with it, and one of them is super bitter still and can't get over it. And now Tony Khan can figure out who's who. I'm just made that up, but I'm going to edit that out. I'm going to stir trouble. No, I think you're right. All right, Dan. Anything else from tonight's show? Or should we?
No, I think this was great. And I when I was watching the show, I was texting with Todd earlier today. He said, "You usually get good shows when you co-host," and I said, "This looks promising." I said, "I don't know for sure, but we got a good show and we had good comments, and this is but I'm back in the teaching game and it's getting up close to my bedtime, and I'm just gonna have to call it good. But I enjoyed it. Always love talking to you, Wade, and thanks for having me."
Well, speaking of texting, Eric Kroll texted and said the show closing angle played into MJF's paranoia that everyone is out to get him because they are, and he said really strong Dynamite. So there we go. Eric Kroll chiming in and backing up our take. All right, thanks everybody. Just a reminder, if you enjoy what we do here, you can go VIP and get even more of it, and not sit through the commercials and ads. VIP membership details, pwtorch.com/go VIP. Subscribe to PWTorch VIP and get access to my full start to finish rundowns of Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, plus other events here and there, along with the Wade Keller News Bulletin that I mentioned. Join us live on YouTube on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. That's when I host. Also, Saturday after the Royal Rumble, Greg Parks will be hosting Wrestling Night in America, which will be talking about the Royal Rumble as soon as it ends right here on the PW Torch YouTube channel. And we also have PWT Talks NXT live on Tuesdays. Kelly Wells, Nate Lindberg, and their crew cover that show. You can also check out my written reports on Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown on the website, PW Torch. My detailed report on Dynamite is available for everyone to read with analysis of key segments. And, of course, subscribe to our free shows if you haven't. Search Wade Keller and search PW Torch to get those. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please like the show right now and comment below if you want to start a conversation with other listeners and viewers, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't yet. If you're interested in donating to Minnesota Fighting Ice and all their constitutional violations and ignoring judges' orders, that the judge today, appointed, by the way, by Republicans, said no government organization has disobeyed more court orders than ICE has in just the last couple months in Minnesota. You can donate, help people who are feeling a lot of, who are hiding out. I mean, there's no brown people at Costco or grocery stores because they're worried about getting snatched off the street and disappeared. You can donate the Open Door Pantry in Minneapolis, or look up La Vina Church in Burnsville on Facebook. You can donate money for food and household supply needs. appreciate those of you who are thinking of us here in Minnesota, because we are going through a lot, and the new guy in charge said we're going to go through even more. They're going to ramp. Yesterday we're going to ramp things down, and today we woke up thinking we're going to ramp them up again. So, man, even Joe Rogan is like telling anecdotes now about what ICE are doing and just shaking his head at how just un-American it is. It's not what ICE was under other previous administrations. So we have that. And finally, if you would like to contribute to PWTorch with written reports, columns, there are open slots, and you can email us at kellerwade@gmail.com. Email me and let me know that you're interested in volunteering, and we can see if there's a slot that interests you, because it takes a team to cover everything going on in this very busy wrestling scene. And if you want to write and be part of this community, that is a way to do so. Dan, thanks again so much for hanging out tonight, and we'll talk to you soon.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Wade.
You bet. There is the graphic on the screen for our YouTube viewers if you want to go VIP. Thanks to everybody in the chat. As always, you guys are great. Really add to the show. Ducky D says, thanks, guys. I'll catch the first half of the show tomorrow. He joined us midstream. Derek Mitchell says, thank you, Wade, for always being so thoughtful and kind. I hope everyone has a safe evening and stay safe. Pickens says, everyone have a great night. And Goodfella says, fun show. Cheers, host. Cheers, chat. There we are. All right. Thanks, everybody. Check out yesterday's flagship. I had Kelly Wells with me. Didn't talk about it a lot because there wasn't a lot of AEW talk on the show yesterday. It was very WWE focused. It was Kelly Wells, who declares himself, and he might be the #1 Royal Rumble fan in the world. His knowledge of it, his passion for it, makes him an annual must-have guest on the flagship. We've talked about macro Royal Rumble as a concept and how it's changed over the years for the first 45 minutes, and then we got into details on this year's contenders to win, men and women, and the undercard. And then we got other subjects: New Japan, Evolve, a little AEW, and what else? There's another topic we covered. So check it out. It's the Blue Logo Show, the flagship. It's audio only on the podcast feed. Search Wade Keller, subscribe to the Blue Logo Show, and check that out if you're looking for some Royal Rumble conversation, not just a preview of this year's, but a big picture look at the entire history of it and the execution of it. Thanks, everybody.